Hello, welcome to Closing Chapters, Everyday Real Estate Tales. I'm your host, Brittany Fry. I'm a realtor, I'm a military wife, and I'm a mom. Join me and come transaction by transaction throughout my real estate career starting back in 2016 to hear about the highs, the lows, and the unexpected turns along the way through all of my customers. It's going to be a crazy ride, you guys. I am so excited to share the past, the current, and then what's coming in the future. Hang tight for the ride. Join me about being a realtor, a military spouse, and a mom. Can't wait to see you there. Hey friends, welcome back. It is time to go over deals number 2 and 3 for 2017. Why am I putting 2 together? Well, these are simply 2 of my listings from my new construction world, and so there's not a lot of the fun, juicy details. So I figured I can put those 2 together and talk a little bit more about the focus of what it was like to work new construction. So these 2 deals both closed in the neighborhood Pecala Springs in Sumter, South Carolina. It's about 15 minutes from Shaw Air Force Base. And this was one of those fun neighborhoods where it was a little bit further out, but you could take like the zippy zoomy back roads and get anywhere you needed to go fairly fast in town. You also had a little bit more space. This particular neighborhood had beautiful oak trees in it, so it was a really cool combination. So these 2 deals happened to close 3 days apart from each other, you guys. March 21st and March 24th. You want to know what's really unique about that? The majority of deals tend to close the last week of the month. Do you know why? I'll tell you at the end of the podcast. I'm sure you already know. By the way, we're getting close to Christmas, so cheers. If you see me in the same clothes on social media, on my podcast, just know I've got a few festive shirts and I have committed myself to wearing them as much as possible until Christmas. I want to be a little bit festive this year. Sometimes we don't really get in the Christmassy spirit, especially when my husband hasn't been home. And I've had him home for Christmas 2 years in a row. I know that sounds really silly, but in our family, that's a really big deal. So we're going to live it up and be festive and enjoy the holiday spirit. So back to new construction. As I've said before, I sat with a company called Great Southern Homes, and it's a fantastic builder in South Carolina. I really enjoyed working with them. They had great products and a really cool variety. And it was so fun to market and talk about all of their houses and figure out all of the details they had. So for instance, one of the things that set them apart is in the attic. This is one of the things that I loved getting to show people. And it sounds so silly, but it makes such a big difference. So when you're in the attic of a house, you usually see the plywood sheets, right? So there's no insulation in the roof there to help keep any of the heat out or in, right? So Great Southern Homes puts in what they called radiant sheath barriers. And it almost looks like aluminum foil, but it's like a thick foam pad with like a silver shiny coating on the front of it. And that is in the ceiling of the attic. And it helps reflect out all the heat or hold in, the air that is inside the house. During the summer, we tested this out with one of my clients. We were in a neighborhood that had 2 different builders in it. One was Great Southern and there was another one. And he really wanted to know if it made a difference or not. So we went up into the attic space of both of them like in June or July. It was hot, y'all. It was significantly cooler in the Great Southern house. So it was really cool to see for sure for myself. It made a huge difference. So, and it really just helps keep everything even keel. And if you have a 2-story house, it makes it so that second floor kind of stays a lot more level temperature-wise, right? So if your attic is really hot, then it's keeping the second floor hot. All the heat is rising to the second floor, and it's just a hot mess express. It's hard enough to keep houses regulated in the temperatures anyways. So this was a huge thing that they did. I also really appreciated their high efficiency ratings. They went above and beyond to test that. And I also found this out too because we would come into houses and there would be like these black plastic covers over top of the AC vents in the ceiling. And what that is that they would seal them all off and they do an airtight test in the house to make sure that there's only so much air that could be escaping that or if they go back and reseal it, they would find any leakage and spray foam areas. It was really cool to kind of see how they tested all of that. And they actually had an efficiency rating that would be posted in the house. So super cool. And then on top of that, they had smart systems where like Honeywell Tuxedo smart systems, and that allows you to control the alarms. It allowed you to control some of the light switches and outlets, the HVAC. So it was really kind of neat. They did a great job putting some extra stuff in there. And some of the features they kind of traded in and out that I thought was really cool was in the kitchen, they would have speakers as an option. So, and then it just had like a little USB plug or like a auxiliary plug, or they were Bluetooth for a while that you could hook in so that you could listen to music in your kitchen. There's no better way to cook and clean than jamming out, my friends. And these speakers could definitely handle some music. So I actually just closed a Great Southern house back in October, and it still had speakers in it. So we tested them out, and my clients were quite impressed. It was pretty cool. So, but I always loved showing that off and telling everybody, you know, your life's going to be a lot easier because you're going to be partying it up in the kitchen and you're not even going to know that you're cooking and cleaning. So that was a really fun feature to talk and show off. The other thing that Great Southern did a great job with was really good room sizes. Sometimes you go into houses where there could be a decent primary suite and then all the spare bedrooms are so teeny tiny. And now, mind you, at least in my household, your bedroom is where you sleep, not where you play. We have play areas for our children, and their bedrooms are their bedrooms. We have books in there for them, maybe some stuffed animals, but not really toys. So small bedrooms could be okay, I suppose. But it's nice to have a big enough bedroom that both kids could be together, or there's a lot of families that do have several kids and still want a spare bedroom, or the kids are close in age and want to be together. So it's just nice if it's a big enough space to handle all of that, especially with the closets. And they did a great job too of adding in additional walk-in closets outside of the primary suite, which was really cool. So let's talk about this primary suite. Not only were they usually really good size rooms, they usually have two decent sized closets or one big bad mamma jamma closet and a fantastic ensuite. They have really nice big countertop spaces, usually a separate tub and shower, and then you always have the option to add tile in the shower sometimes, and there's tile on the floors as upgrades. Just really nice, a range of options. So it was really cool. Some of them had French doors that opened to the bathroom, the ensuite. Talk about luxury, you guys. It just made you feel like $1,000,000, like you're in a Hollywood movie, just swinging open the doors and opening up to this grand mirror at the double vanity. Some of them had like the extra vanity where you can have like a stool underneath. So they've done really good details. And to boot, they had some floor plans that were big enough to have two separate primary suites, one upstairs and one downstairs. So cool, especially in a military community where we have multi-generational families a lot of times, or you have, you know, older teenage kids still living at home, whatever the case may be. So much versatility. I wish now that I had that. I have family that likes to come and visit, and they really don't like having to go up and down the stairs. I would love to have a separate space for them downstairs where they don't have to be in the hustle and bustle of our world upstairs and don't have to mess with the stairs. So kudos to you, Great Southern, for having a huge variety of floor plans. They also had everything from starter, smaller floor plans, all the way up to 3,500 square feet. So it was really great to get to learn all about them and watch houses be built from the ground up. It was also really cool to get to help pick out some of the selections. So if we had a house that it was just a lot and somebody was coming in and they wanted to build the house there. So there might be a floor plan that's already set for that house and like the framework. So the front of the house may already be set, but then we know what color shake we could have, what color vinyls we could pick, the carpet, the granite, any backsplashes. So it was really fun to put that together and make a really nice collage of homes down a street. So they weren't all cookie cutter. They all didn't have the same exact colors side by side. The fronts of them had a different elevation, so they didn't look exactly the same side by side. So it was really neat, and there was a lot of attention to detail that was super important to them to make sure it really looked like a traditional homey neighborhood, not a every floor plan is the same exact floor plan, very cookie cutter is what we would call it. So that was really neat and interesting to see the behind the scenes part of that. Now let's talk about the work side of it. Here's the one thing that was a little bit interesting about working with new construction. Not all builders have model homes, but this particular builder does. So in the neighborhood, they have a house that they have staged and set up, and part of it is an office that we are required to stay in. So it's great to have a model home to show off one of our beautiful houses and see how it can be decorated, the size furniture that can fit in it. There's a lot of benefits to that. Also, it made it really fun to be able to host community events and bring people in, bring realtors in, and give them another side of new construction. So the hard thing about it, though, is that there were set hours every single day that somebody needed to be in that model home. And in the world of real estate, we kind of have a lot of demands pulling on us every which way. So if you were working new construction, you really kind of needed to be focused on working new construction only and know that you were going to be in that model home for set hours on set days. So for me, eventually this got a little bit hard because I got more military clients. All of them weren't working new construction. Did not want to hand them off if they weren't new construction. So I was trying to maintain being able to get to other properties, take care of other clients around being able to sit in the model home. And that was a little bit hard in the future. So the way that I transitioned that out is that I ended up being like a sub or a floater. So if they needed some help over a weekend and I was available, or somebody just wasn't available that day and I could be there, then I was always happy to pop in, get some work done, and represent a great product. So anyhow, that is a little bit of the life of me working with Great Southern. They were a great family, it is a family-owned company. It actually just went public this past year, but the family that owned it is great, and he supported the local community quite a bit. They were out of Columbia, and they will always have a special place in my real estate career. It taught me a ton. I always reference back to them all the time, and they kind of set the standard for me. Like if they didn't meet some of the standards that Great Southern has, then it's not quality in my mind, because I learned what they had done right from the beginning. So it was really nice to see that and then know what to look for in the future. The other thing they do really well is they're very respectful about inspections and letting the clients come through and do a new home orientation. Super thorough new home orientation. We're usually there for 2 to 3 hours, and they get a walkthrough of the home. They get to be shown any features, how their windows work. Did you know a lot of times people literally don't know how to open and close the windows, or if it has a sash that folds out, how to do that? Or they come from a different part of the country, like in the West Coast, where the windows kind of open out or crank out. I've seen a lot of people talk about that, and they're not used to a sliding window. So there's all these different little nuances. Also from the West Coast, a lot of times people had gas dryers and they weren't used to electric dryers. So knowing that that's a difference and what that looked like. So we would go through all those things that might be a little bit different and show them all the features of their house. One of the biggest features that we would always talk about is where the water shutoff valve was. This is one thing that they do so well. In the garage, they have a shutoff to the water to the whole entire house. I have been caught, these are stories for another day, my friends, in really bad situations trying to figure out how to cut off the water to a house in the middle of the night when it's flooding out. And I've had to crawl underneath of a 12-inch crawl space and unplug a water pump, or isolate lines underneath of a sink. Not fun. So they do a great job making that super easy and obtainable if you ever were to have an emergency. These are some great items that Great Southern does really well, and I truly, truly love getting to support them and sell their product. So let's go back to, why do buyers always want to close at the end of the month? So when you buy a house, let's say you bought a house in December, your first mortgage payment is February 1. February, not January, February. You get a month for free, basically. Not really. You have to pay prorated interest at closing. So it's however many days are left in the month. So let's say you close on December 25th. We're not doing that because it's Christmas. Everybody's closed. But let's say that. And you had 6 days. So you pay 6 days of interest. Versus if you close on September or December 16th and you have 15 days of interest, it can create a lot more money cash due at closing. Sometimes well over $1,000 extra just in interest if you close at the beginning of the month. So it's really unique whenever we have something that is towards the middle of the month or just at the early 20s, because we're really used to everybody kind of shoving it in all at the end of the month. And thank God for these closing companies, the closing attorneys and title companies that are so willing to just jam it out and get us all in and all out at the end of the month and make it so amicable for all of our clients. But anyways, that's your answer. I can't wait to see you guys on the next episode.